When you are a professional footballer, there is never a good time to be injured. But there are some times when it makes the whole situation worse. These footballers had strong chances to be a part of their selection going to Qatar, but unfortunately, they got injured and were not able to be back on time. Here is the 11 players and substitutes that will miss the World Cup due to injury. Kepa, Spain. The Spanish keeper had a difficult year and suffered strong competition at his club, with Edouard Mendy taking the spot in the Chelsea goal. It was also challenging for the 11th capped keeper that had to battle in the national team with many world-class goalkeepers, such as De Gea, Robert Sanchez, Pau Lopez, and especially Unai Simon. As a substitute, we selected the French keeper Mike Maignan. For the defenders' positions, we have selected Diego Carlos and Wesley Fofana. Diego Carlos, Brazil. The least we can say is that the new villain defender had a rough start in the Premier League. The Brazilian ruptured his Achilles tendon in just his second Aston Villa match. Injured since August 11th, Diego Carlos suffered the first big injury of his career at the worst possible time, as he was gaining momentum, and was most likely going to make the trip to Qatar as a backup for the pair Marquinhos-Thiago Silva. Diego Carlos will have time to focus on his recovery and be back stronger than ever, just to make sure that his team is getting away as far as possible from the bottom of the Premier League. Wesley Fofana, France. Injured since October the 6th, with Chelsea, the promising defender was on the rise for a backup spot for France. Especially with Deschamps experimenting with a back three, Fofana really had a high chance to be called up. Unfortunately, Fofana will have to wait 4 more years to play a World Cup either with France or Ivory Coast. As a substitute, we selected the Brazilian Lucas Verissimo and the French Boubacar Kamara. Ben Chilwell, England. Having a hamstring only 7 days before the team reveals is the sad story of Ben Chilwell. And even if he was most likely not going to be a starter for England, as Southgate had Luke Shaw, Bukayo Saka, and even Reece James play as a left-back, the 17th capped full-back had strong chances to be part of the group. As a substitute, we selected the Portuguese Ricardo Pereira. Reece James, England. This is a big disappointment for the English fans, as Reece James is such an important player for the Three Lions. And even though Kyle Walker and Kieran Trippier will be there, the 15th capped right-back was an essential player during the World Cup qualifications. The versatile Chelsea player will have to wait until the 2026 North American edition to play a World Cup. As a substitute, we selected the Senegalese Bouna Sarr. N'Golo Kanté, France. The Chelsea curse. With Kepa, Fofana, Chilwell and James, you have half a team. N'Golo Kanté was considered the best defensive midfielder in the world only a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, since then the Frenchman kept suffering injuries and was more often in the infirmary than on the field. This is a real bummer for any fan of football, as Kanté is not only a joy to watch for his abilities but also a truly amazing and simple human being. I don't know what is happening in the Cobham training centre, but if you want my opinion, I think Chelsea should consider hiring a better medical staff and more fitness coaches to fix these issues. As a substitute, we selected the British Calvin Phillips. Paul Pogba, France. Le Pioche Paul Pogba is living a very difficult year, and, as body and mind are closely linked, there might be more than one reason why Paul Pogba is feeling weakened and injured. After a difficult comeback to Juve this summer and still waiting for his first official game, Pogba had to face a public and mediated racket from his own brother and childhood friends. There is no doubt that the irregular genius of the 91 caps player will be missed by the French team. As a substitute, we selected the Brazilian Arthur Melo. Florian Wirtz, Germany. The 19-year-old attacking midfielder had the first major injury of his career, a cruciate ligament rupture in March. After exposing his talent to the Bundesliga and the world, the brilliant German was able to get 4 appearances with the German seniors. And even though Hansi Flick would have loved to take Wirtz to Qatar, he will have to wait until 2026 to feature in the World Cup. But with Thomas Müller, Jamal Musiala, and Kai Havertz in Wirtz's position, the Germans should be just fine for Qatar. As a substitute, we selected the Dutch Jorginho Wijnaldum. Mikel Oyarzabal, Spain. The Real Sociedad captain is injured since March. Before that, he was able to take part in 21 games for Spain. He is the typical underestimated football player, playing for the same club since the age of 14. He might not get the exposure he deserves, but don't be fooled, Oyarzabal is a top player. As a substitute, we selected the Belgian Alexis Saelmakers. Philippe Coutinho, Brazil. No need to present Coutinho, even if he is no more the player he used to be. A superstar like Coutinho can be dangerous at any moment, and he could have brought a sparkle of creativity coming out of the bench. At 30, it was most likely the last chance for the little magician to display his talent in a World Cup. And with the new generation coming, 2026 might be too difficult for him to get a spot in the final squad. As a substitute, we selected the Mexican Tecatito. Diogo Jota, Portugal. Injured since October with a calf injury, Diogo Jota got injured at the worst possible time, 1 month away from the competition, and his recovery is expected in January. With 29 caps and 10 goals for a Selecao, the versatile attacker was an important piece of Fernando Santos' team for the qualifications. Being only 25, Jota shouldn't have to worry for the 2026 edition of the World Cup. As a substitute, we selected the German Timo Werner. This is the best team of the players injured for the World Cup. Which player would you change in your team? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe. Cheers and see you on the next one.